Men may tamper with scripture. They may rewrite the codes of law to suit themselves and their lowered and lowering standards. But dear ones, they may never change the records of Akasha. So as we burn a little palo here to get the vibe right, that quote was from El Morya, the statesman, master of divine will, Chohan of the First Ray, taken from this book, The Rainbow Masters. And I started off with that quote because the name El Morya just popped in my mind a couple days ago. And at that time, I didn't even remember that he was one of the Ascended Masters, but I went and I Googled it, I realized it was, and then I went back to my notes from the Ascended Masters book, and I found that all the notes I took from El Morya happened to align perfectly with what I was going to present today to begin with. And so now A145's presentation is going to be enhanced by little El Morya quotes interspersed throughout. So I am Dylan Lewis Monroe, aka A145, the map maker. I'm usually pointing at the Q web, but this is the energy map. I have the Cult of Baal over there. And I'm the administrator of Deep State Mapping Project, as well as New Templars on Rumble and BitChute and Odyssey. And this presentation is going to be about all the different meditative and spiritual practices that I have been developing over the course of my whole life, but especially 2022. I've been developing many sacred ritual practices independently over the past year and for a few years, as I've been discovering new techniques and different combinations of those techniques. I continue to tap into higher and higher levels of spiritual awakening and clearer channels of guidance. My goal is always to get to a place where any question I have can be answered by my guides or God, source, whatever you perceive the highest power to be, maybe even my highest self. I've recently discovered the greatest combination, at least that I've experienced at this stage, which is combining plant medicines, meditation, chanting, mudras, breath work, and this giant copper pyramid that you see me sitting in right now, which arrived after Victory of Light. It was meant for my booth, but I also intended it to be a tool for myself to use in my private practice after the expo. Add in the energy map, crystals, tektites, ASEA, Ormus, and you have yourself a pretty powerful combination to work with. So I'm going to start off this video, or this presentation rather, with a little shot of ASEA, which is enhancing to your brain, enhancing to your whole body, and also very good for meditation. I've explained that in other videos, and we sell this on deepstatemappingproject.com. Also kick this off with a little shot of Ormus. This brand I found at Conscious Life, but I've actually refilled the bottle with a different brand. I'm not selling either of these, but just to let you guys know, I highly recommend Ormus for anti-aging as well as meditative enhancement. And let's kick this off. This is my light code drum. I invite you to either enter a meditative state or simply observe. Ginger Dea. So now that we have elevated the vibe a little bit with some of my deep Tibetan light language, which I have been working on a lot in private and recently begun presenting more publicly. It's always developing, and I intend to eventually integrate the light language with live channeled messaging. Not feeling it quite yet, though. I'm working my way into it, and that's the thing with all of this. You know, you go and you see a channeler in Sedona and you think, oh my God, I could never do that. That's like next level. But, you know, everyone builds their abilities over time and grows, add one ability to the next, discover one new enhancing technique or tool after the next, start combining them more and more, and you will get there. And I haven't even had any plant medicine today, so that was pure sober light language. And since I've gotten this pyramid, actually, I have really felt like sitting in this takes me to the next level. I mean, it's all a spectrum. You know, I've done DMT, I have not done ayahuasca, but I've done some high doses of psilocybin, but it's all kind of the same thing. And I think you can achieve those states of heightened awareness that you sometimes achieve through plant medicine. I achieved it just then, you know, through just different techniques. And, you know, maybe you'll get to the point when you don't even need a copper pyramid or any of these other tools. But, you know, we work with our physical environment and find things that work with us and that can help us. You know, no one is just subsisting in outer space, tapping into the universe without any sort of tools to work with. So, I mean, maybe that's the level of the Ascended Masters, but, you know, we're working up to that. So the Ascended Masters are here to help us. That's why I think Almoira popped into my mind to drop in these messages throughout this presentation. And so I want to talk a little bit now about some of the deepest visions that I've received from my guides throughout 2022 and how these lessons have been building on each other. I'll tell you about something called the hyperdimensional crystalline time cube prism. Imagine with me, if you will, a Rubik's Cube, but instead of the standard 3 by 3 arrangement, imagine with me that this cube is vast, hundreds of units wide. Now, instead of the standard primary colors normally assigned to each face of a Rubik's Cube, imagine that each face of each cube represents a timeline. In that timeline, you can see little people and vehicles and lives moving around, going about their business. Some of these cubes are projecting from the Rubik's Cube, some are retracting. It's not moving like a normal Rubik's Cube. Some are rolling their way to different locations, and some are shifting in large blocks. This is a way that you can think about our reality and how you can consciously arrange different various timelines into alignment to achieve your goals and ambitions. I've been doing a lot more sound baths lately than I ever had in my past personally. And sound baths, if you can find some in your area or travel to see one and experience one, are great settings to take a moment to just rest and tap into serenity and tap into your highest guidance as well. I always have a very hard time sleeping around other people, but the crazy thing is in a sound bath, I feel perfectly at ease and maybe sometimes doze off around, you know, dozens of other people. And it's an amazing experience to share that with other people. I just did one last night for the solstice in Columbus, put on by Om or Hom sound baths, HOM sound baths. A really great musical artist that puts that on. and I had a great experience there. It's also cool to see the space they rented, to see lightworkers taking over bigger and more prominent spaces. The one I did a couple weeks back was in a church that has been converted into an event space. And so while this event is online, I know it's Junk's ultimate ambition to hold events like this in person. That's my shared ambition as well. And several of my other friends have said, we want to own warehouses to be able to let the light workers play and do what we do, because what we do is so much more powerful when we are physically together and combined. But I know personally that even virtual presentations can be very powerful as well. So in the sound bath at the church for Momo's birthday party a couple weeks back, I was having this vision of the hyperdimensional time cube, and I was seeing all of us who were in the sound bath. When they start playing noises that sounded like a storm in the distance, I saw all of us in a cave in a southwestern environment with a big cave opening overlooking a vast vista. And as I was hearing the noises of the sound bath, I was envisioning all of us who were there present at the sound bath looking at this hyperdimensional time cube prism. And in this particular vision, it happened to appear as this bright glowing green color, all these little cubes shifting and reorganizing themselves, and all of us in the sound bath looking at this hypercube and deciding collectively what is the best way to rearrange this to create the optimal timeline for us and all, because the light workers are ultimately working for all. We're not just service to self, service to the light workers. What we want for us is best for all of humanity. And so in further visions, I have investigated what happens if you cut this hyperdimensional time cube straight in half. What's inside of it? And what my guides have showed me is that inside of it is what I would describe as galactic fluid. If you've ever looked at the cosmic microwave background radiation or looked at the most distant galaxies we can see with our telescopes, proto-galaxies, you could even call it the earliest galaxies in our universe, which looking deeper into space looks deeper into time, it looked like that substance as a liquid. And then my guide showed me that with this galactic fluid, this liquid inside the hyper time cube, this is something that we can actually weave braids with in order to create timelines of our desire. Bisecting the time cube and working with the galactic fluid weaves braids to manifest the optimal future for all. Carrying out God's plan on a daily basis, the master plan of the Creator, whose plan is peace, culture, development, technology, and the expansion of consciousness. We have another quote from El Moira. Sorry, I get confused. I always want to call him El Moira, but it's El Moria. Maybe I'll just mispronounce it for this one. For the will of God is the blueprint of every project. The will of God is your will to be God in manifestation. So let's see, I have 4 more minutes. I was going to do a few questions from Telegram. I'm not sure if we have time for that. So I'm going to go straight into my outro here. Well, both my questions from Telegram were asking, when's it going to happen? When's Ascension going to happen? When's the EBS going to happen? If you're familiar with that realm of information, will Ascension happen in the next 5 years? I would say it's up to you. You can ascend when you are ready to, and it's not necessarily the government holding you back. I could say a lot of things about the government right now, but we're going to keep this one metaphysical. And so this is the message that I received last night as sort of the conclusion of this presentation. What if the military is not the only way? What if creating our own breakaway civilization is the only way? Are you up for the challenge? Can we, the light workers, set this planet up better than those who currently run it. It's time for us to start considering these things. Going back to the basics, I mean like Plato's Republic basics, and reinventing life in New Earth from the ground up. Discarding all pre-existing beliefs, including primarily religion. All religion is lessons about extraterrestrials and the psychedelic experiences of specific prophets whom have been designated as the only ones who have any authority by the religious authorities. The truth is, now that both psychedelics and extraterrestrials are so much more widely understood and interacted with, having a profound religious experience, such as that of Moses or Jesus, is now within the realm of possibility and accessibility to any of us. For those of us who choose to consciously attune ourselves to the higher powers and to our own ascension, our potential is unlimited. And to wrap this presentation up, I'm going to do a demonstration of another plant medicine that is not a psychedelic, that is called Sananga. Sananga is an eye drop that happens to be quite burning, but there are many spiritual benefits to it. One being mastery over pain, another being brought back into your body very rapidly. And a quote from El Moira: "There is no pain in carving away the fat of the mortal so that the lean soul of the spirit can fly." And with that, as I wrap this up, thank you.